All right, checking in with Travels in West Africa by Mary Henrietta Kingsley. Just finished chapter 14, Fetish Continued, which seems to be a long, long stretch of just chapters that are all called Fetish, continually over and over and over again. Okay, I have one more chapter of Fetish. There is chapter 12 Fetish, chapter 13 Fetish Continued, chapter 14 Fetish Continued, oh god, no, I have two more chapters. Chapter 15, Fetish Continued, and chapter 16, Fetish Continued, at which point we will fucking get out of fetish and into something else entirely. I'm glad I am reading the abridged version of this. So yes, a lot of this, especially at the end chapter here, gets thing like, oh, they have these beliefs. These beliefs make sense to them. They're very empirical minds. The African, like, kind of qualifying it that way. So there's a very logical reason. The direct, simple reasoning. I would see how she is characterizing it of why they believe in what they believe, and you know, it's one of these things of how much I can take Kingsley's word on any of this. I think it's more a sense of I am getting a portrait of Kingsley and English society looking at African society than I do think I am getting of the actual African society. I wouldn't trust this book any amount of space to be giving me a true and clear picture of it. You know, so there's that. You know, we get a lot of framing in here of like, well, like there's this whole thing with this, you know, having slaves, and then the slaves marrying somebody else, but them not becoming the property of that husband. They're still the property of A. And this goes on, especially for her children, female children, apparently on into eternity, with the heirs having absolute control, having absolute ownership of the slaves as well in this particular thing. And it's like, oh, what is the white authority to do when you get into this kind of palaver? Isn't it such a headache for the white authority, which is just like, oh, fuck's sake. And, you know, it ends with, I confess that the more I know of the West Coast Africans, the more I like them. I think them fools of the first water for their power of believing in things, but I fancy I have analogous feelings towards even my fellow countrymen when they go and violently believe in something that I cannot quite swallow. So there is at least that, like, they have irrational beliefs, but then again, well, we believe in resurrected dudes walking around after they're dead, who apparently absorbed all their sins. There's some kind of magical thinking going on there. She's not quite saying that. I think she's a good Christian English woman. She wouldn't be quite saying that, but there's maybe an implication there. But and I mean, she makes the point of, well, they don't have the institutions that we have, so there's some much more direct and you know, stuff saying, like, basically, what is it saying here? I got, there's a quote here. The African does not, and though his culture, wait a minute, okay, the African is far from being the brutal fiend he is often painted, a creature that loves cruelty and blood for their own sake. The African does not, and though his culture does not contain our institutions, lunatic asylums, prisons, workhouses, hospitals, etc., he has to deal with the same classes of people who require these things. So with them he deals by means of his equivalent institutions, slavery, the lash, and death. You have just as much right, my logical friend, to call the West Coast chief hard names for his habit of using brass bars, heads of tobacco, and so on, in place of sixpenny pieces, as you have to abuse him for clubbing an inveterate thief. So there is at least a kind of acknowledgement of, well, we're maybe not that different as actual people. We just have different histories, different institutions. There is kind of a lack of maybe awareness of, or lack of maybe proper notation that how much the West African people's lives have been disrupted and turned about by the institution, the colonial institution of the white government that has to then has to work out all these problems from these troublesome native peoples. So yeah, again, it's some ways it's more interesting with what her views are than it is what she's actually viewing. Like, I don't know what she's viewing and whether it's actually particularly true. I got a quote, I might as well just put it here. I got a, not quote, I got a comment on my video where I did publish a little bit of a reaction to an earlier part of Kingsley's work, from somebody who appears to be a black woman, who the quote was just a simple, "History is a burden." History is such a burden, which I don't know if that's just like, yeah, history is a burden. It is something that we all carry and that we all have to deal with. I don't know if it's taken like that, or if it's taken of like, you whiny white fuck. Yeah, it's such a burden for you, such a burden. Oh, I feel sorry for you. You know, it's a single thing. So I don't know exactly how to reply to it, or if I should reply to it, or if I just heart it. I might just heart it, because it's giving me so little to be able to know where she's coming from. I should actually see who it's from, whether it's somebody who's maybe a bit more in good faith. If it's somebody who has no videos on the thing, or has a lot of videos that are maybe like a little bit more hardcore, maybe I'll just heart it. Leave it at that, because I don't want to get into a fight where I don't have any education. I don't have any know-how to be in a fight with anyone. I don't want to be in a fight with anyone. And I'm quite sure if this is a black woman, that they have a lot of lived experience that I don't have, that I should be mindful of and try and respect that way. Because yeah, as I'm saying, this is a book, yeah, that it's a white author of a past era talking about her travels in West Africa. And I'm seeing exactly how fucked up this is, and how untrustworthy, and how I can't trust it. But it's kind of fascinating for me in that sense, but I'm not taking it as a guide to West Africa. So yes, there's all that. There is all that. So yeah, we'll see how I mean, I'm the one who posted the video, so I guess I got to deal with it. So but I can't deal with it just by putting a heart and just moving along. All right, I will leave it there. More videos later.